The ground of Haven 4 split wide open. Blue light poured upward like fire from the core of the planet. Dust and stone rained down as something vast and heavy rose from the earth. Alien soldiers scrambled backward, their armored boots slipping in the trembling soil. Weapons sparked uselessly in their hands. They shouted to one another in panic, their confidence gone. From the shadows of the glowing chasm, a figure began to emerge. At first it looked like a massive stone statue, tall, carved, unmoving. But then, its eyes lit with burning light and the statue took a breath. The sound was deep, like thunder rolling through mountains. The first guardian had awakened. It was enormous, towering above the ruins, taller than the colony's buildings, taller even than the Dravari war machines. Its body looked like a mix of stone and metal, etched with glowing patterns that pulsed like living veins. Each movement shook the ground, each step left cracks in the earth. The soldiers froze. None dared fire. One Dravari officer finally broke the silence, screaming, "Shoot it! Shoot it now!" A handful of soldiers obeyed, firing plasma bolts at the giant. Blue streams of energy slammed into its chest. But instead of piercing its body, the bolts bent away, twisting like arrows caught in a storm. The Guardian's glowing eyes turned toward the soldiers. Then it raised its arm. A blinding beam of light shot forward. It didn't explode like a weapon, it erased. Entire squads of Dravari vanished in the beam's path, leaving only smoking ground behind. Their screams were cut short. The other soldiers broke ranks, some fleeing back to their carriers, others falling to their knees in terror. On the Dravari flagship, Commander Rathkal slammed his claws on the control desk. "What is that thing?" His officers stammered. "Not a machine, sir, not anything we know. Its power readings are impossible." Rathkal's teeth bared in rage. "Then find a way to kill it. Call in every ship, focus all fire on that creature." In the colony bunker, Commander Leah Stanton and her team watched the battle unfold on their screens. Their faces glowed pale in the blue light. One officer whispered, That thing is on our side?" Leah didn't answer at once. She wasn't sure. Yes, the Guardian was striking the invaders, but its presence filled her with as much dread as relief. Its voice, if that roar could be called a voice, had carried a weight beyond human comprehension. The historian Elias Marin appeared on the comms again. His face was lit with awe. "You see now," he said softly. "The Guardians were never just myths. They were left here to defend this world when the day came. The Dravari have made the mistake of waking them." Leah narrowed her eyes. "Defend the world, or judge it?" Elias did not answer. Outside, the Guardian turned its head. The blue fire in its eyes swept across the land like searchlights. Every human hiding underground felt it, a pressure in their chest, a feeling of being weighed and measured. For the Dravari, that same gaze felt like death. One Guardian was awake. But the rumbling beneath the ground hinted there were more. The alien fleet above Haven 4 began to fire. Dozens of warships unleashed volleys of plasma, raining destruction down toward the ruins. The sky filled with burning streaks of energy. The Guardian looked up, raised both arms, and the ruins answered. From the ground, enormous shields of light shot upward. The orbital fire slammed into the shields, bursting in brilliant explosions, but the shields did not fall. Instead, the energy seemed to flow back into the Guardian itself, feeding its glowing veins. On the flagship, Rathkal roared in disbelief. "It feeds on our weapons?" Then something even stranger happened. The Guardian tilted its head back and spoke. Its voice was so deep the air itself shook, the sound echoing across the colony, across the sky, into the hearts of all who heard it. The words were not in any known language, yet both humans and aliens understood the meaning in their minds. "Who dares disturb our slumber?" The question was not asked gently. It was filled with wrath. Alien soldiers fell to the ground, clutching their ears, screaming. Human villagers gasped in terror. Even Leah Stanton, hardened by years of command, felt her knees weaken. Elias, however, whispered in awe, "It speaks." The Guardian began to move forward, slow but unstoppable. Each step shattered alien vehicles, crushed metal into the dirt. It raised its arm again, and with a sweep of light, an entire Dravari tank battalion vanished. The invaders' courage collapsed. Some soldiers threw down their weapons and ran. Others fired wildly, their plasma bolts bending away before they even touched the Guardian's skin. Above, the alien fleet tried again, launching heavy torpedoes. The torpedoes streaked down, screaming through the sky, only to stop midair. They hung suspended, glowing, before turning sharply back upward. The Dravari watched in horror as their own weapons raced toward them. Seconds later, half a dozen warships exploded in the heavens, their burning remains raining down. The battlefield had turned into a nightmare. Back in the bunker, Leah gripped the table. If this is only one guardian, she muttered, her voice shaking. What happens if the others wake? As if in answer, the ground rumbled again. More cracks spread from the ruins. More light pulsed upward. The soldiers and colonists alike turned their eyes to the earth, terror and awe mixing in equal measure. The first guardian lifted its head and spoke again. We were left to guard. We were left to judge. The words echoed like thunder. And deep beneath the soil, more shapes began to stir. The invasion of Haven 4 was supposed to be easy. The Dravari had landed their soldiers, their war machines stood ready, and their fleet darkened the skies. But nothing was going according to plan. Something ancient had stirred beneath the ground. The ruins glowed with lines of blue fire. Alien scanners went wild. Engines died without reason. Even the soldiers, fierce and proud, felt fear in their bones. Commander Rathcal stood on the bridge of his flagship, his claws digging into the steel rail. Report, he barked. An officer's voice trembled. Unknown energy field, sir. It's spreading across the surface. Origin point near the ruins. Then destroy the ruins. Rathcal roared. Level them. Show these humans we are not afraid of their tricks. Troops on the ground prepared to fire. Tanks rolled forward, heavy cannons aimed at the glowing stones. Soldiers armed their plasma rifles. But then the ruins pulsed again. The tank's cannons fizzled out, the plasma rifles sparked and died. Nothing worked. Soldiers slammed their weapons in frustration, shouting in panic. The commander's jaw tightened. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Far from the battlefield, inside the colony's command bunker, a group of human officers watched in silence. Commander Leah Stanton, head of the colony's defense, leaned over the holodeck. Her face was pale but steady. So it's true, she whispered. One of her junior officers frowned. What's true, ma'am? Leah's eyes stayed locked on the glowing ruins on the screen. The stories. The old warnings. I didn't think they were real. The room fell quiet. Another officer, younger and frightened, spoke up. Stories? What stories? Leah turned toward them, her voice low. When the colony was founded, explorers reported strange ruins here. They were told never to disturb them. Some records even claimed the site was forbidden long before humans arrived. The locals believed it was a resting place. Resting place for what? Leah didn't answer right away. She remembered her training at the academy. Old Terran myths, legends that most dismissed as nonsense. But her mentor had once told her something she never forgot. Every myth hides a warning. Finally, she whispered the words, Guardians. That's what they called them. The officers shifted uneasily. The word itself felt heavy. Back at the ruins, the old historian Elias Marin stood alone, eyes reflecting the growing light. For years he had been mocked. For years no one believed him when he said Haven 4 was special. But now the ground itself seemed to prove him right. One of the younger villagers ran up behind him. Elias, what's happening? What are those things? The old man did not look away. They are the ones our ancestors feared. Protectors and judges. They sleep until the world is threatened. And the Dravari have woken them. The boy's voice shook. Will they protect us? Elias closed his eyes for a moment. That depends. Guardians are not allies. They defend what was left in their care, but they also decide who is worthy to live under their protection. The boy's face went pale. Meanwhile, alien soldiers near the ruins regrouped. Fear made them clumsy. Their commander on the ground shouted at them to hold position. Stand firm, he barked. This is a human trick. Nothing more than machines buried in the dirt. Destroy them. But when they tried, their rifles refused to fire. Sparks burst from their weapons as if an unseen hand had stolen the energy. The ruins pulsed again. The symbols carved in the stones flared brighter, casting long shadows. And then the ground beneath the soldiers cracked open. Blue light spilled out from the fissures like rivers of fire. Some Dravari stumbled back in terror. Others stood frozen, unable to move. From the flagship above, Rathcal watched in growing fury. Pathetic cowards, he hissed. They shake at shadows. If the ground itself rises against us, then we will burn it until nothing remains. He raised his arm and gave a single order, prepare the orbital strike. His officers hesitated. Commander, if we fire on that site, the colony itself will be destroyed. Do it. Rathcal bellowed. No human ruin will stand in my way. Inside the human command bunker, alarms blared. Leah Stanton's team saw it immediately, energy charging in the alien flagship's weapons. "They're going to strike from orbit," an officer gasped. "If they hit the ruins, the whole colony is finished." Leah slammed her fist on the table. "We need to warn the people to move deeper underground. Now." But Elias Marin's voice came over the calm and strange. "No. They won't succeed." Leah frowned. "Elias? What do you mean?" "They cannot destroy what was buried here," Elias said. His voice carried both awe and dread. "They are about to learn that for themselves." High above Haven 4, the Dravari flagship unleashed its weapon. A blazing spear of plasma fire fell from the sky, a blast strong enough to vaporize mountains. It streaked toward the glowing ruins. The colonists screamed. Soldiers ducked for cover. Even Leah closed her eyes, waiting for impact. But the blast never reached the ground. At the last moment, the blue light from the ruins surged upward, forming a shield of energy that stretched across the sky. The plasma strike hit the barrier, and vanished like water into sand. The Dravari flagship shook violently, its systems flickering. Power drained from its core. On the bridge, Rathkal's eyes widened in shock. What is this?" he growled. No one answered. Every officer stared in silence at the impossible sight. The humans stared too, their fear mixing with wonder. The ruins were no longer ruins. They were awakening. And what lay beneath them was far beyond human or Dravari understanding. Leah whispered only one word: "Guardians." The ground rumbled again. Stone towers crumbled as something massive pushed upward from the earth. The light grew so bright it blinded the soldiers. And then, through the dust and the glow, a shadow moved. A shape larger than any war machine. A figure that had slept for countless ages. The invasion was no longer about conquering humans. It had become something else entirely. The first guardian stood tall above the ruins, its glowing eyes scanning the battlefield. The ground still trembled as cracks spread outward. Beneath the earth, something else was moving. The promise of more guardians awakening filled both humans and aliens with dread. The Dravari soldiers were no longer fearless conquerors. Many dropped their weapons, staring up at the towering figure in disbelief. Others shouted for retreat, pushing each other in panic as they ran back toward their troop carriers. But their commanders barked orders with desperation. "Stand your ground. Fight. Do not shame the Dravari Empire." Their words carried little strength. Fear had already taken root. Commander Rathkal watched the chaos from his flagship. His claws dug deep into the command rail. His pride refused to bend. "One creature will not stop us," he snarled. "We are the Empire. Bring down every weapon we have. Burn this world to ash if we must." Dozens of Dravari ships aligned above Haven 4. Cannons glowed, torpedo bays opened, and beams of plasma gathered for a storm of fire. On the ground, the Guardian looked up slowly as if it knew what was coming. Its eyes flared brighter, the lines across its body pulsing like rivers of molten light. The fleet fired. The sky turned white. Beams of plasma, missiles, and heavy torpedoes screamed down all at once. The colony shook as explosions lit the horizon. For a moment, humans hiding underground thought the end had come. But when the smoke cleared, the Guardian was still there. A shimmering dome of light surrounded it, stretching across the ruins like a protective shell. Every blast, every missile, every torpedo had struck the dome and dissolved. The Guardian's shield had held. Then, in one motion, the Guardian raised both arms to the sky. The shield reversed. All the energy the fleet had poured into it exploded back upward in a single wave. Ships that had fired moments before now trembled as their own power surged against them. Hulls cracked. Engines burst. Entire warships broke apart, their burning wreckage falling through the atmosphere. The humans in the bunkers gasped in disbelief. They had seen fleets crush entire worlds, yet here one Guardian had turned the impossible into reality. Inside the human command bunker, Commander Leah Stanton tried to steady her voice. "This isn't a battle," she whispered. "It's a slaughter." Her officers looked at her in shock. "But, it's killing the invaders," one said. "Isn't that what we need?" Leah's eyes stayed on the screen, where the Guardian moved across the battlefield with unstoppable force. "It's killing them now. But what happens when it decides to turn on us?" The old historian Elias appeared on comms again, his voice calm but heavy. "They are protectors, yes, but not ours. They were placed here long before us. They will judge who is worthy to remain." Leah felt a chill. "So we may be next." The Guardian moved through the ruins like a god of war. Every step shattered alien vehicles. Its sweeping beams of light erased soldiers in waves. The Dravari tried everything. Heavy walkers fired artillery rounds, only for the shells to freeze midair before crumbling into dust. Plasma cannons burned hot, but their energy bent harmlessly away. Even close combat units rushed forward, swinging blades of burning plasma, yet the Guardians swatted them aside like insects. Fear turned to despair. The proud Dravari warriors, feared across the galaxy, were reduced to terrified animals. Above, Commander Rathkal's rage burned hotter. He refused to accept defeat. If one beast rises, then we will crush it with power beyond measure. Ready the superweapon. His officers froze. Commander, the superweapon has never been used inside an atmosphere. The backlash. Do it. Rathkal roared. Better to risk our fleet than be humiliated by stone relics. In orbit, the flagship began to glow. Massive plates shifted open, revealing a weapon the size of a city. Energy gathered at its core, swirling into a sphere of burning plasma brighter than the sun. On the ground, both humans and aliens saw the light gathering in the sky. The villagers cried out in fear. Some clutched each other, believing the end had come. Even Elias Marin's calm broke for a moment as he stared upward. Leah Stanton whispered, "If that fires, none of us will survive." The Guardian tilted its head back, watching the weapon charge. It did not flee. It did not shield itself. Instead, it slammed one massive arm into the ground. The earth cracked open, and from the fissures more light erupted. Symbols carved into the ruins blazed so brightly they could be seen from orbit. And beneath the soil, something stirred again. The second Guardian rose. This one was shaped differently, sleeker, its body sharper, its glowing lines burning red instead of blue. It emerged from the ground like a predator waking from sleep. Its eyes flared as it looked to the sky, focusing directly on the charging flagship. The first Guardian turned its head toward the second. For a moment, the battlefield went silent, as if the entire world held its breath. Then both Guardians raised their arms. Above, Rathkal bared his fangs. Fire. The flagship unleashed its superweapon. A beam of burning plasma wider than a mountain tore downward, a strike powerful enough to destroy the colony, the Guardians, and half the continent beneath it. The humans underground closed their eyes. But the Guardians were ready. Their combined power surged upward in a blinding column of light. The superweapon's beam met the Guardian's strike, and the sky itself exploded with fire. The shockwave spread across the planet, shaking mountains, tearing clouds apart. For a moment, it looked as if the heavens had split in two. When the light faded, the flagship was gone. Not damaged. Not broken. Gone. Nothing but drifting ash remained where it once hung in orbit. The Dravari fleet panicked. Ships scattered, engines burning as they fled. Commanders shouted for retreat, their pride shattered. But the Guardians were not finished. The first Guardian's voice rolled across the land, deep and terrible. You have been weighed. The second Guardian's voice followed, sharp and final. You have been found unworthy. The Dravari had thought themselves unstoppable. Now they were prey. The alien commander stood on the shattered colony street, his armored boots sinking into cracked stone. Around him, soldiers waited, restless and uneasy. The ground was still trembling, and the strange glowing cracks were spreading wider, reaching through the ruins like veins of fire. This world is falling apart, one alien officer muttered. We should leave. Silence, the commander snapped. His eyes were fixed on the cracks. Something was moving inside them. Not rock. Not magma. Something else. Then, with a thunderous roar, the ground split open. Out of the blazing chasm rose a figure made of stone and light. 10 meters tall, shaped like a warrior, its eyes burned like suns. The air shook as it took its first step. The alien soldiers froze in terror. What is that?" whispered one of them. The historian, still hiding with the villagers, whispered back as if reciting a prayer. The first Guardian. The sentinel of the deep. The alien commander raised his weapon. Fire. Hundreds of energy blasts lit up the night. But the Guardian raised one hand and the air shimmered. Every shot dissolved before reaching its body. Then it lowered its hand and the street itself came alive. Stone spears erupted from the ground, piercing alien armor like paper. Screams echoed as soldiers fell. The commander stumbled back. Impossible. This is not in the records. No world has this power. But it wasn't over. From another crack, a second figure climbed out. This one was even larger, with wings of molten rock that unfolded like banners. It spread its wings and the colony's night sky turned red. Its voice was not sound, it was thunder in every mind. You dare wake us? The soldiers dropped their weapons. Some ran, but the winged guardian swept its arm across the ground. Fire poured out, rolling like a wave, consuming everything in its path. Those who fled were turned into shadows. The villagers hiding could only watch. Fear and awe filled their hearts. The historian, however, smiled faintly. The records were true. The guardians never died. They only slept. The alien fleet above the planet saw the chaos. Ships began firing orbital strikes to destroy the guardians, but beams of light shot up from the ruins. The first guardian pointed toward the sky, and the beams ripped through alien warships as if they were paper toys. Explosions lit the heavens. The fleet commander in orbit shouted orders, but panic had already taken control. They are tearing us apart. Withdraw. But retreat wasn't simple. The guardians were not just fighting, they were hunting. Every time a ship tried to escape into orbit, energy chains rose from the planet, latching onto them, dragging them back down. Wreckage fell like burning meteors, smashing into the colony's planes. The commander on the ground could only stare. His army, once confident of an easy victory, was nothing but ash and ruin. And still more cracks were opening. From beneath the earth, shadows stirred. Shapes unlike anything in alien memory crawled out, giant beasts of stone and crystal, their bodies glowing with ancient power. The guardians had not risen alone. Their servants, their war beasts, had come with them. One beast leapt into the streets, crushing alien vehicles beneath its claws. Another roared, and the sound alone shattered weapons into dust. The commander's last hope was to call for reinforcements. He pressed his wrist console, sending a desperate signal across the stars. Do not come here. Do not answer. This world is cursed. The ancient powers live. Above, the fleet crumbled. On the surface, alien soldiers screamed and begged as the guardians swept through them like storm winds. In the caves beneath the colony, the villagers huddled close together. The historian's voice was calm, almost reverent. The invaders thought we were weak. They thought we had no defense. But they forgot. This is the cradle of the guardians. And they do not forgive trespass. The ground shook again, harder than before. The first guardian turned its burning eyes toward the horizon, as if sensing something deeper still. The historian's smile faded. His voice dropped to a whisper. No, if more rise, the world itself may not survive. The villagers looked at him in fear. What do you mean? He did not answer. He simply watched as another massive crack spread across the earth, larger than any before. The guardians paused as if even they were wary of what was coming. And from the darkness below, something far older, far greater began to move. The air grew heavy. The stars seemed to dim. The invasion was over. But the true awakening had only begun. High voltage cliffhanger for part 6. The aliens are destroyed, but something even older than the guardians is awakening beneath the world. Something that might threaten not just the invaders but humanity itself. The battlefield was silent except for the crackle of fire and the distant roar of collapsing alien ships. Smoke curled across the ruined colony streets. Bodies, both alien and broken machines, lay scattered. The guardians stood tall, glowing in the night like gods of stone and fire. Their eyes scanned the sky, ensuring no more invaders dared approach. The villagers watched from the safety of the caves, trembling between relief and fear. But then, the ground rumbled again. At first it was faint, like distant thunder. Then stronger. The stone walls of the caves shook, dust falling in heavy clouds. The villagers gasped, clutching one another. One boy whispered, "Is it more aliens?" The historian's face had gone pale. His hands trembled as he pressed them against the vibrating wall. No, this is not the invaders. This is older. Far older. Out on the surface, the guardians had gone still. Their burning eyes turned toward the great crack in the earth. For the first time, the villagers noticed something strange. The guardians did not look like conquerors anymore. They looked wary. Almost afraid. Then, with a shattering roar, the earth split open wider than ever before. From the abyss, something vast began to rise. Larger than mountains, darker than the night sky. The very ground bent beneath its weight. It was not shaped like a man. Not like a beast. Its form was shifting, part shadow, part stone, part fire. Its many eyes glowed like dying stars. When it breathed, the air froze and the villagers felt their hearts skip. The historian whispered, his voice breaking. It cannot be. The first one, the ancient war that nearly ended this world, it was sealed beneath us. The alien commander, barely alive and crawling through the ruins, lifted his head. His eyes widened in terror. This is no guardian. This is something else. His last words before collapsing into the dirt, "No army can fight that." The great shadow rose higher, its roar shaking the colony to its foundations. The guardian stepped forward. The first raised its stone blade, glowing bright with ancient light. The winged one spread its molten wings, shielding the villagers below. Together they stood against the dark titan. But when the creature moved, even the guardian staggered. Its presence pressed against everything alive, like the weight of an entire world. The villagers screamed. Some fell to their knees, unable to breathe. The historian shouted, forcing them to listen, "Do not look into its eyes. Do not surrender to the fear." Above, the alien fleet, what little remained, saw the rising darkness. The surviving ships didn't wait for orders. They turned and fled into hyperspace, leaving their commander and army to burn. They wanted no part of what was awakening. The battle began. The first guardian struck with its glowing blade, carving deep into the titan's shadowy body. The air rippled with force, sending shockwaves across the ruins. The winged guardian unleashed rivers of fire, trying to burn the shadow back into the abyss. But the titan only laughed, a sound that was not sound but a vibration that tore into the minds of all who heard it. Villagers clutched their heads, screaming in pain. The historian gritted his teeth. It feeds on fear. That is why the ancients sealed it away. If we break, it grows stronger. The villagers huddled together, forcing themselves to stay calm, whispering words of courage, prayers, anything to resist. Slowly the pressure lessened. On the battlefield, the guardians pushed harder. The titan struck back, smashing one guardian to the ground. The earth cratered, mountains in the distance cracking apart. The winged guardian roared, soaring into the sky, then diving down with all its strength. Fire and light clashed against shadow and void. The world itself seemed to split. Finally, the first guardian drove its glowing blade deep into the titan's chest. The shadow howled, a scream that shook stars. The winged guardian poured its fire into the wound, burning brighter and brighter until the night sky turned white. With one last roar, the titan fell back into the abyss, dragging ruins and stone with it. The ground sealed itself shut with a thunderous crash. Silence returned. The villagers dared to breathe again. The guardians stood, scarred but unbroken. Their glowing eyes turned toward the humans below. The historian stepped forward, bowing his head. "We thank you, ancient ones." But the guardians did not answer. Instead, their bodies began to fade, crumbling back into stone and dust. The light within them dimmed. Slowly they returned to the earth, back to their endless sleep. One by one they vanished until the colony was silent again. The villagers stood among the ruins, shaken but alive. The boy whispered, "Will they come again if we need them?" The historian placed a trembling hand on his shoulder. His voice was calm but heavy. "Yes, but pray we never wake them again. For if we do, it will mean something worse has risen." The villagers looked up at the stars. The invaders were gone. The guardians were gone. But the memory of that night would never leave them. And somewhere deep beneath the earth, in cracks sealed but never destroyed, a faint echo still lingered, like a heartbeat waiting for its time. The story of the invasion had ended. But the legend of the guardians had only just begun. The sky above the colony world of Haven 4 was calm. Its people lived in peace, far away from the chaos of the galaxy. Farmers worked their fields. Children played in dusty streets. Life was quiet, simple, and untouched. That peace ended the moment the shadows appeared. From the horizon, massive alien warships broke through the clouds, their black metal bodies covering the sun. The sky dimmed as if night had fallen early. People stopped in fear, staring at the monstrous shapes above. The ground shook as the ships lowered closer. The invaders had arrived. The alien fleet belonged to the Dravari, a race known across the galaxy for their cruelty. To them, conquering Haven 4 was nothing but a game. It was not Earth itself, only one of its small colonies lightly defended and forgotten by most. The Dravari expected no fight, no resistance. On the bridge of their flagship, Commander Rathcal laughed as he looked down at the green planet. "Humans," he said with scorn. "Fragile bones. Weak minds. They have no fleets, no weapons. They spread themselves too thin. Easy prey." His officers chuckled in agreement. They had crushed stronger worlds before. Why should this one be different? Down below, panic spread through the villages. Families rushed into underground shelters, clutching their children. Alarm sirens screamed. Farmers abandoned their tools. The colony militia tried to gather weapons, but everyone knew they were outmatched. Only one man did not run. At the edge of the settlement, An old historian named Elias Marin stood in the ruins of an ancient stone circle. The villagers often mocked him for his stories, calling them legends and ghost tales. But as he looked up at the descending warships, his voice trembled with both fear and certainty. "They have no idea," he whispered. "No idea what sleeps beneath this ground." The Dravari made their landing with thunderous force. Massive troop carriers slammed into the earth, cracking the soil. Alien soldiers poured out, tall, armored and armed with plasma rifles that glowed like fire. They marched into the village, laughing at the sight of empty streets. Some kicked over human tools, others smashed walls for amusement. They mocked the ruins nearby, ancient stone towers, broken statues and half-buried carvings that no human had ever explained. "What primitive rubble is this?" one soldier sneered. "Do they worship rocks?" Another spat on a crumbling statue, shaking his head. "Pathetic. These humans live in dust. They will bow quickly." But while the soldiers laughed, their instruments began to glitch. Scanners flickered. Power readings spiked. Strange magnetic fields rolled across the land. Commander Rathcal frowned as the reports reached him. "Explain this," he growled. "Unknown interference, sir," an officer replied. "Energy is building under the surface. Could be seismic activity." The commander dismissed it with a wave. "Irrelevant. Begin the purge. We will take the colony before the day ends." The villagers huddled in their shelters, but they felt it too, the rumbling. At first it was faint, like distant thunder. Then the ground itself began to tremble. Dust fell from ceilings. Cracks spread along walls. Children cried out in fear. The soldiers outside stopped laughing. The ruins they had mocked began to glow. Faint lines of blue light crawled across the stones, pulsing like veins. Carvings long buried in dust flared to life. Symbols no human could read now burned as if carved fresh. What is this?" a Dravari captain demanded, backing away. The ground shook harder. A deep sound, like the roar of something impossibly large, rolled up from below. The alien war machines, tanks and walkers, stuttered. Their engines died as if some unseen force had stolen their power. Elias Marin, the old historian, stood alone at the ruins, his eyes wide. "It begins," he whispered. Above, the Dravari commander felt unease for the first time. His scanners blared warnings. His officers shouted over each other. Power surged beneath the surface. "Seismic activity, no, not natural." "Commander, something is waking up." Rathcal snarled. "Nothing on this dirt world can harm us. Deploy all troops. Crush whatever this is before." He froze as the entire planet seemed to exhale. A pulse of energy burst from the ruins, rippling out in every direction. It slammed into alien soldiers, throwing them to the ground. It struck their ships in orbit, shorting weapons, dimming lights. Even the flagship shuddered as alarms screamed. The villagers heard it too, a sound that wasn't just noise but a voice, deep, ancient, and filled with fury. And then silence. The air hung heavy. The ground was still. Every soldier, every human, every child in hiding held their breath. From the glowing ruins, dust and stone began to fall away. Something massive, something buried for ages, started to rise. Elias fell to his knees, whispering words no one else understood. The Dravari soldiers raised their weapons, but their hands shook. And then the vibration came again, louder, deeper, as if the planet itself was waking from a long sleep. The invasion had begun. But something far older, far stronger, was answering. Backhand index pointing right, cliffhanger. The ground splits open, blue light spilling out. The audience is left asking, what is waking beneath the colony?